let me ask y'all a question, man. When y'all be watching some of these videos, like these disappearances, unsolved, solved cases, like what be going through y'all mind? You get to see what's going through my mind, facial expressions, reactions, what I'm feeling at the moment. You see, but what be going through y'all mind? And then how does it affect you going forward? Want to know, because it seemed like I had a pause right before I hit the record button, and it was like, man, another one of these where chilling disappearances, like this video is 5 chilling disappearances caught on CCTV that need to be solved. And the numbers of unsolved cases that are out there are astronomical. Now, granted, the improvements in technology and everything that's done happened and transpired and brought us forward have helped and played a part, but there's still a lot of cases that are unsolved. It's crazy, man. It's just crazy. And sometimes I like to sit and just chill in silence sometime and just think, you know what I mean? And that was just one of the thoughts that I had before I'm just like, man, this is truly the world we live in. It's messed up when you think about it. When you really think about stepping outside your door, you might not make it back. It's messed up. Or your head gotta be on a swivel wherever you go. It's messed up. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be extra precautious. You gotta watch your back. You gotta watch your children back. You gotta watch your brother, sister back, your parents back, everybody. Because somebody just chooses to be either violent, you want to call them, a sociopath, a serial killer, a sicko, whatever. You can never let your guard down. And with that being said, here's the next video.
We tried to cover unsolved disappearances on both Top 5s and our other channel, Cold Case Detective, in the hope that just one person might recall something that might help the families of the missing find answers. There are few worse things in life than not knowing. In this episode, we look at cases where the missing person's last known movements were caught on CCTV. These types of cases really help to show where the victims were and what they were doing just before they vanished, highlighting what could happen to any one of us. Now, before we begin, we would like to say a huge thank you to this video's sponsor, Skill Gaming.
Oh yeah, that's
Also want to hugely help support the channel, then check Luke Durbin. 19-year-old Luke Durbin from Hollesley, Suffolk, went missing in the early hours of Friday the 12th of May 2006. Luke had taken time off work from his job at a local greengrocery to meet his friend Alex, who was visiting from London. Alex lived in Woodbridge, and Luke drove his new motorbike over to his house and left it there along with his keys, wallet and change of clothes. The two men then headed out for the night with another friend, Zach. After having drinks in a local pub, the three took a taxi to Ipswich to go clubbing at Zest nightclub. Sometime during the night, Alex took a taxi cab back to his place after having too much to drink. Luke and Zach stayed in the club, but later became separated. At between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., Luke was spotted at Ipswich train station, but after being told no trains were running, he left. Next, he is captured on CCTV at around 3:45 a.m. heading to Hawk Express taxicabs. But because he has left his wallet at Alex's place, the receptionist suggests Luke call his mum for her bank card details. He refused, stating he didn't want to wake her. At 4 a.m., Luke is captured walking across a zebra crossing heading towards the bus station. This is the last positive sighting of Luke. Shortly after, a silver or white Volvo 440 is caught on CCTV with the registration M206LYE, later discovered to be false plates. This vehicle is of primary interest to investigators.
So he ain't did nothing to nobody. Had a drunk night, separated from his friends, he left, tried to go home, didn't have his wallet, did nothing to nobody, but somebody out for violence figured that he was the perfect person to kill? Is there a criteria or something?
The next day, Luke's family assumed he had gone to work, but after realizing he hadn't and they couldn't contact him, he was reported missing. Police started extensive searches as they were very concerned for his welfare, as it was so out of character for him to be out of touch with his mum and sister for any length of time. After Luke's movements were seen on CCTV, a witness came forward and reported seeing an individual that matched his description walking near Foxhall Stadium in Ipswich on May 12, 2006, between 7:30 and 8 a.m. This lead was investigated twice, but failed to produce any answers. Another sighting on the 13th of May 2006, between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m, placed Luke in a dark blue Renault Megane car near the Turban Centre car park in Quayside Woodbridge. Again, this lead led to nothing. Then, almost a year after Luke disappeared, a former classmate of his reported seeing him outside Aldwych Theatre in Drury Lane, London. Several years later, in 2011, a 29-year-old man and a 24-year-old woman were arrested for identity fraud after using Luke's details for making online purchases in August 2007. The pair were questioned but later released. Another 2 arrests were made in June 2012, a 40-year-old man suspected of murder and a 25-year-old suspect as an accomplice, but both were released after questioning and a search of their homes. In recent years, it's been speculated that Luke was mixed up in drug dealing and that he owed money to a gang from London. However, there is no conclusive evidence of this, and Suffolk police have described Luke Durbin's disappearance to be one of their most baffling cases ever.
So, he was mixed up in drug dealing, right? But he was broke. No wallet, no nothing, no cash. Drug dealers keep a lot of cash. You know what I mean? They might not keep a lot of cash, but a lot of their money can't go in banks. Why? Because it's church. What are you gonna trace it back to? Bank is gonna ask questions, right? You can't just deposit a whole bunch of money. So normally drug dealers keep some cash on them. So he's out here drug dealing, no money, trying to figure out a ride. Nah, drug dealers are pretty resourceful too. They'd have figured it out. I'm not buying that one. I'm not buying that one. Sorry.
If any of you can offer information regarding Luke's disappearance, please call the Major Investigation Team in the UK on 01473.
Not trying to say drug dealers got a specific look, but does he look like drug dealer type to you?
782019. Chad Gibson. Chad Gibson was raised in London, but moved to Cornwall when he was 17 to live with his father. His mother Sharon, who he was very close to, later followed her son to Cornwall and settled in St Austell, near Newquay, and at the time of his disappearance, Chad was living with his mother. Chad was father to a daughter named Annie, and he had her name tattooed on the left side of his neck. The relationship with the child's mother didn't last, although he remained a doting hands-on father. In the run-up to Christmas 2015, 32-year-old Chad told his mum that he had met a woman that he really liked and was hoping to meet her that weekend. On Saturday the 19th of December, Chad left his mum's house at 11 a.m. and headed into town to meet friends for a drink. It was raining, and Sharon offered him an umbrella, which he declined, and said he would see her later. That was the last time his mum saw him. When Chad didn't come home that night, his mother just thought he was out having fun. It wasn't unusual for him to link up with friends and come home the next day. But as the days came and went, and Chad still didn't come home, his mum started to worry. But he was a grown man, so initially she tried to convince herself he was just with friends and continued with her plan to visit her daughter in London for Christmas. But when Chad didn't contact her on Christmas Day, she realised something was very wrong. And when she returned to Cornwall on Boxing Day, and it was obvious Chad hadn't been home, she reported him missing to the police. However, the case wasn't initially treated as a priority, as officers believed he was simply partying over the festive season. After a social media appeal, Sharon learned that her son had been in the central pub in Newquay on the day he disappeared. He had been seen speaking to a friend about the woman he had met when he was overheard by a man claiming to be the woman's one-off boyfriend. Chad reportedly tried to defuse the situation, apologizing to the man and explaining that he didn't know she was in a relationship. But the man and his friends wouldn't let it drop and reportedly followed Chad into the toilet where they...
Come on, man. It's like the pimps used to say, you don't check the pimp, you check the hoe. You don't check the man, you check the woman, bro. He doing what he's supposed to do. He didn't know. You check the woman. Only she can allow the advances. And apparently she allowed them. So you need to check her. Not the dude. Like, I don't understand it.
There was a confrontation. The men then, for unknown reasons, allegedly took a photo of Chad. Chad then left the pub at around 6 p.m. and was captured by CCTV as he crossed the road with two men. He was never seen again. Then, in a cruel twist in August 2016, Sharon thought she might finally have answers when police informed her human remains had washed up at a hamlet north of Newquay. Although devastated, Sharon believed her son had been found and started organising his funeral. However, shortly after Sharon got a phone call from police saying DNA proved the body was not her Chad. 5 years later, and there is still no sign of Chad, and the heartache for his family continues. If anyone has any information on Chad's whereabouts, please click on the link in the description to report a sighting or give information. Connie Lynn Royce. Connie Lynn Royce was a divorced 24-year-old business school student. After her marriage ended, she briefly lived with another man, until that relationship broke up after a verbal fight that involved the police, and Connie moved back in with her parents in Madison Heights, Michigan. On June 1st, 1990, Connie left her parents' house to go on a date with Greg, a man she had met just a few days before. Connie drove to his apartment in Sterling Heights, where she met up with Greg and his friend Brad. The three had a few drinks before leaving for the Hayloft Bar, a now defunct bar in the 100 block of North Gratoit in Mount Clemens, Michigan. When the three arrived at the Hayloft, they could be seen on video entering the bar. At the time, the Hayloft was one of the few bars in the area with video surveillance. At around 10:50 p.m, the friends are sitting around a table when Greg gets up to use the bathroom. While he is gone, Connie turns to Brad and says, "I can't do this," and gets up and heads for the exit, leaving her shoes and purse behind. Connie can clearly be seen on camera leaving the bar. She is obviously
super drunk. You see the way she hit that wall?
Behind. Connie can clearly be seen on camera leaving the bar. She is obviously under the influence of either drugs or alcohol, and is seen bumping into a wall as she staggers out. When Greg returns to the table, Brad tells her that Connie has left, and the pair go to the entrance to look for her. They ask several people if they saw her leave, but none of them did. Greg and Brad return to their table and stay at the bar, waiting for Connie to come back for her purse and shoes. By 2 a.m. closing time, Connie is still not returned, and when Greg gets back to his apartment, Connie's car is still parked there. Connie is reported missing, and an investigation is launched. Hayloft staff tell police that nothing seemed amiss with the group that night. There was no arguing, no yelling, and nothing that concerned them. A witness came forward with a supposed sighting of Connie at a payphone near the bar around the time she left. And also a late 1970s model car was near her, but no one saw if she got in or not. A few days after her disappearance, Connie was reportedly seen at the Newport Apartments about 5 minutes away from the Hayloft, but this led to nothing. Greg and Brad were investigated and cleared of any involvement by police, and Connie's ex-husband and ex-boyfriend were also questioned, but they both had alibis and were cleared. Over the years, a few theories have been proposed about what could have happened to Connie. She was clearly under the influence of something, and it had been suggested that she wandered into the Clinton River and fell in. However, divers searched the waters and the nearby water treatment plant, but no evidence was found. It has also been theorized that Connie was drugged by an unknown person who then followed her when she left the bar, but again there is nothing to support this. Based on the reported sighting of Connie at the payphone, it is possible she tried to call someone to pick her up, but either couldn't get through, or the person who picked her up is responsible for her disappearance. Another theory is that she was seen wandering around near the road and was offered a ride by the wrong person. It's been over 30 years now, and the only real lead is the bar CCTV footage that seemed to be the last sighting of her before she vanished into thin air. If Connie is still alive, she is now in her 50s. If any of you can help with this case, call Macomb County Sheriff's Office on 586-307-9358.
See, we lucky we live in today's times, man. Cause you walk out the bar, you got Ring doorbells, you got cameras, you got dash cams, you got light post cameras, you got cameras everywhere. So they'd have had some form of help. But back then, man, it was just didn't have that much, man, and that sucks, bro.
Brian Schaefer. 27-year-old medical student Brian Schaefer had the world at his feet. He had a loving family, a girlfriend, and was a med student studying at Ohio State University. But on April 1st, 2006, he disappeared without a trace, and to this day, his whereabouts is unknown. On the night he disappeared, Brian had a meal with his father, Randy. The family were grieving, as just 3 weeks before, Brian's mother had passed away from cancer. After the meal, Brian's father urged him to go home, but Brian was keen on celebrating the beginning of spring break, and planned to meet his friend, William Florence, at the Ugly Tuna Saloon. Brian left his father, and at around 9:30 p.m. met William at the bar for drinks. About 30 minutes later, he called his girlfriend Alexis, telling her he loved her and that he would see her when she came back from Columbus. The pair had a trip to Miami planned and were scheduled to leave on April 3rd. After speaking to Alexis, Brian and his friend visited several other bars and made their way down to the Arena District. At around midnight, they met up with Redith Reed, a friend who gave them a lift back to the Ugly Tuna Saloon, where the group continued drinking shots and other hard liquor. While at the bar, for the second time, Brian got separated from his friends. They called his phone several times, but he didn't answer, and eventually they left without him when the bar closed at 2 a.m. They waited around outside for a bit, but when Brian didn't show up, they figured he had already gone back to his apartment. Over the next 48 hours, Alexis made several calls to Brian's phone, but was unable to reach him. And when on Monday morning, Brian missed his flight to Miami, he was reported missing to the Columbus Police Department. Security footage from the Ugly Tuna Saloon showed Brian outside of the bar at around 1:55 a.m., talking briefly with two young women, then moving off camera in the direction of the bar, apparently to re-enter. Take a look. However, the camera did not capture him leaving again when the Ugly Tuna closed. Brian's car was found parked at his apartment, which was near the Ugly Tuna Saloon, and personal belongings were found inside. His cell phone and bank cards are missing, and haven't been used since he vanished. All those who were with him on his night out were interviewed by police, and some of them took and passed lie detector tests, apart from his friend William Florence, who refused, and the two girls he spoke to outside the bar, who weren't asked. Brian's disappearance was completely out of character. His friends and family said of course he was grieving for his mother, but he was not inordinately depressed or suicidal, and they don't believe that was a factor in his disappearance. Police do not believe Brian left on his own accord, but to this day have no idea where he is, despite many tips coming in that have led to nothing. In the years after Brian disappeared, his family and girlfriend continued to search for him, and even consulted a psychic who said Brian's body was in water near a bridge pier. This revelation prompted family and friends to wade along the shores.
Psychics will take advantage of anybody, won't they? Come on, man. Grieving family here, you'll still take advantage
Of the Olentangy River in the hope of finding something, but nothing materialized. In September 2008, tragedy struck the family again when Brian's father was killed in a freak accident when a tree fell on him. In a cruel twist,
mom, son, father. just like that. Sheesh.
The condolence book opened for him. One of the signatures in it said, "To Dad, love Brian, US Virgin Islands." This suggested Brian might have left Columbus for a new life elsewhere. However, this was later confirmed to be a cruel hoax. To this day, the question remains, is Brian dead? Was he murdered that night? Or did he take off and is alive, living a new life elsewhere? If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Brian Schaefer, please contact the Columbus Police Department at 877-645-8477. Brittany Drexel. Brittany Drexel grew up in the Rochester suburb of Chile with her mother Dawn and her adopted father Chad. Brittany was blind in her right eye after being born with persistent hyperplastic primary vitreous, and to cover the eye's tendency to wander, she wore contact lenses that gave her a distinctive appearance. In 2008, Brittany's world was rocked when Dawn and Chad separated. The split affected her school grades and aggravated the depression she had long suffered from. Brittany stayed with her mother, but was in close contact with her father. In April 2009, Brittany asked her mum if she could go to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, over spring break with some girlfriends. Her mum refused, as there were no adults going, and Brittany was furious. Mother and daughter argued over it for a couple of days, before Brittany announced that she was going to stay at a friend's house to cool down for a couple of days. Her mum agreed that was a good idea. However, instead, 17-year-old Brittany met up with a group of friends and travelled with them to South Carolina, arriving at Myrtle Beach on April 23, 2009. They checked into the Bay Harbor Resort on North Ocean Boulevard. 3 days later, Brittany called her mum and told her she was at the beach. Dawn was not alarmed, as she assumed that Brittany had been referring to the beach near her friend's house. She still had no idea Brittany was at Myrtle Beach. At around 8 p.m. on the same day, Brittany left the beach alone and walked 1.5 miles down South Ocean Boulevard to another hotel, the Blue Water Resort, to visit 20-year-old Peter Brozowicz, a longtime friend who was staying there. Security cameras at the Blue Water Resort showed her arriving and then leaving around 8:45 p.m. Throughout her stay at Myrtle Beach, Brittany constantly texted her boyfriend, John Grisso, who had not joined her on the trip due to work commitments. But around 9:15 p.m., after she left the Blue Water Resort lobby, her text to him abruptly stopped. This was so out of character that John began calling Brittany's friends to make sure she was okay, but they too had not been able to contact her. Eventually John called Brittany's mother, Dawn, who was shocked to learn her daughter was at Myrtle Beach, and after repeated calls and texts to Brittany's phone went unanswered, she called the police. Investigations led nowhere. None of the friends Brittany had met during her time at Myrtle Beach could shed any light on where she was, and a search of Brittany's hotel room revealed all of her belongings there, except her purse and cell phone. Over the next 11 days, an extensive search was mounted using air, water, ground, and sonar, not just in the Myrtle Beach area, but also at Santee, Charleston, and McClellanville areas, but there was no sign of Brittany. The investigation also looked into Brittany's phone, and they tracked network pings 50 miles south of Myrtle Beach, in an area along the US route near the Georgetown/Charleston county line. The pings stopped abruptly on the morning of April 26th. Brittany's mother was convinced that her daughter was trafficked, but the Myrtle Beach police did not think that was likely. Many years passed with no new leads, until in 2016, after the FBI had taken over the case. That's when a jail informant named Taquan Brown claimed he knew what happened to Brittany. He said she had been kidnapped in the Blue Water Resort and taken south to McClellanville, where she was held for 4 days.
Yo, I think I looked at that resort before. Blue Water Resort. I'm gonna look that up, bro, because I think I looked at that resort before. That sounds way too familiar.
Days, with a plan to use her for sex work. But the plan was ruined when her disappearance gained so much publicity that she was killed. Brown claimed he saw Timothy Deshawn Taylor assaulting Brittany at a stash house in McClellanville. Based on the information Brown gave them, the FBI and local police believed Brittany's remains could be found dumped in a local alligator pit, as there were several in the area. However, after searching the house and pits and ponds, they found nothing. They also interviewed Timothy Deshawn Taylor, but their investigations have led nowhere. In recent years, Brown has changed his story, saying he saw Brittany alive about a month after she disappeared. And it's hard to know if there is any truth in his claims, as he has also failed lie detector tests when questioned about Brittany's disappearance. It's widely believed that Brittany is likely dead, and Brown and Taylor are involved in some way. But for her family, the wait goes on, and no one really knows what's happened to Brittany Drexel. Anyone with information about her disappearance, please call the FBI tip line on 1-800-CALL-FBI. So that's it for this video.
Now, I was pretty familiar with this one in the last video. I mean, not the last video, the last story. Those two, the other ones, not so much. But when you look at the resort, I pulled it up, Blue Water Resort. Now, it's a couple of them. One in Tennessee, two in South Carolina. I should have typed Myrtle Beach. Let's see. See, can I get a better picture? Water Resort. Myrtle. There you go. Myrtle Beach. Let me see what pulled up. Yeah. This right here. I'm gonna see if y'all can see it on my phone. Trying to get like a picture of what it kind of looks like. It looks like that. Pull it back a little bit. All right. So it won't really show it, but I'm pretty sure I looked at that resort before to go to Myrtle Beach, but I didn't go to Myrtle Beach. We ended up going somewhere else, but yeah. Parents, man, you never want to bury your child. You always want your child to go before you. You never want to bury them. You know what I mean? And to have to deal with that, and you don't know whether this dude who's in jail or wherever he was that said he knew what happened to it was lying to get years shaved off or really had something to do, or know who did have something to do with it. It's just messed up. Super messed up. But yeah, man, y'all get at me in the comment section. Let me know what you think. And be safe and careful. I know that's cliche, and I always say it, but it's a reason, bro. Watching these stories, man, it just keep you on guard. So get at me in the comment section. I'm gone.